lights are blinding. The roar of the crowd is deafening. Two giants step into the ring of history, fists clenched, eyes locked. The world holds its breath. In the red corner, the Iron Legacy, the Anglo-American world power, veteran, ruthless, a champion with bloodied gloves and a crown that's slipping. In the blue corner, the Red Dragon, China, cold-eyed, laser-focused, the disciplined juggernaut trained in silence, moving in shadows, waiting for this moment. The bell rings. The Iron Legacy strikes first. Swift diplomatic jabs, global influence, cultural dominance, a web of allies. But the Red Dragon doesn't flinch. It absorbs the blows, then counters hard with economic uppercuts, massive infrastructure deals, global trade takeovers, and digital surveillance punches that stun the crowd. The Iron Legacy stumbles, not down, but shaken. His footwork is slower now, his arms tired from too many wars, too many deaths, too many distractions. Meanwhile, the Red Dragon circles him calm and deadly, looking for the knockout opportunity. Is this the fall of the reigning champion, or just another round in the longest fight the world has ever seen? Would the Red Dragon win? The stakes are high. What's your take? In an era dominated by geopolitical tensions, economic rivalries, and military buildups, the world watches with bated breath. Will the tides of power shift from the long-reigning Anglo-American bloc to the rising force of the East? Can China, with its rapid economic expansion, technological dominance, and growing influence across continents, truly unseat the United States and become the next global hegemon? The debate is fierce. Politicians, scholars, and strategists are divided. Some argue it's only a matter of time before America fades into the background, a casualty of internal division and overextension. Others insist that the Western alliance, though shaken, still holds the reins of power with deep-rooted influence across finance, diplomacy, and military strength. Meanwhile, everyday people wonder, what does this power struggle mean for our world? Are we heading toward a new era, a global reset, or something far more dramatic? In the face of uncertainty and speculation, where can we turn for reliable insight? The answers are not found in think tanks or political manifestos, but in a source many overlook: the Bible. This ancient yet living book has a track record of accurate prophecy, revealing not only the origins of world powers but also their outcomes. As Psalm 119:105 declares, "Your word is a lamp to my foot and a light for my path." In the flickering light of today's unstable world, the Bible shines a steady beam of clarity, guiding us through the maze of history into the present and far beyond. To understand where this struggle is heading and why the outcome is not what many expect, we turn to one of the most astonishing visions ever recorded, the prophecy given to the prophet Daniel. Join me as we unravel the future of our world through the eyes of the Bible. A disturbing dream, the prophetic timeline, a statue's composition, a symbolic chronology. The setting is ancient Babylon. A powerful king named Nebuchadnezzar lies restless, disturbed by a mysterious dream that none of his magicians or wise men can interpret. In a dramatic twist, a Hebrew exile named Daniel is summoned, and through divine revelation, he unveils not just the dream, but a sweeping vision of the future. What the king saw was no ordinary dream. It was a colossal, awe-inspiring statue, its appearance terrifying, its parts composed of different metals. This statue would come to represent the succession of world powers from Daniel's time to the climax of human rulership. Daniel 2:1-45. Let's break it down. Head of gold. This represents the Babylonian Empire 607 to 539 BCE, the very kingdom Nebuchadnezzar ruled. Known for its splendor, wealth, and towering dominance, Babylon stood at the peak of imperial glory. Daniel 2:36-38, chest and arms of silver, symbolizing the Medo-Persian Empire, 539 to 331 BCE, which conquered Babylon. Though inferior in wealth and grandeur, it boasted a dual leadership and stretched even farther in territory. Daniel 2:39. Belly and thighs of bronze. Enter Greece, 331 to 168 BCE, led by the swift and unstoppable Alexander the Great. This empire spread Greek culture and language across the known world, laying intellectual and cultural foundations for centuries. Daniel 2:39 Legs of iron, representing the might of Rome, 168 BCE 476 CE in the West. Its military discipline and legal systems crushed opposition and forged a legacy that influenced Western civilization profoundly. Daniel 2:40. Feet of iron and clay. This last segment represents the Anglo-American world power, a dual system that is part strong, part fragile. Unlike previous empires, it is not a single unified state, but a cooperation of two dominant nations, Britain and the United States. Its structure is complex, a mix of political strength and internal division, symbolized perfectly by the brittle combination of iron and clay. Daniel 2:41. The rise of the Anglo-American world power, the Seventh Empire. Out of the ashes of Roman influence and centuries of shifting powers came the British Empire, a maritime giant that once claimed the sun never set on its dominion. But with time, another force emerged from its former colonies, the United States of America. Rather than becoming adversaries, these two powers formed a close alliance, both politically and militarily, especially after World War I and World War II. This Anglo-American duo became a dominant world influence, spearheading democratic ideals, capitalism, and technological progress. They control powerful global institutions, from the United Nations to the World Bank, and project military power with unmatched reach. They've led in culture, finance, intelligence, and ideology, shaping the modern global order. This union is historically unique, not a single empire but a shared dominance, a fragile alliance of iron and clay, exactly as Daniel saw in his vision. China's ascent, a new contender. But while the Western world power maintains its grip, a silent giant has been rising in the East. China, with over 1 billion people and a civilization stretching back thousands of years, once lay dormant under dynastic rule, colonization, and internal turmoil. But the 20th century ushered in a radical transformation. After the revolution in 1949, the People's Republic of China embarked on a long journey, through isolation, ideological purging, and finally, economic opening. Deng Xiaoping's reforms in the 1980s turned China into a manufacturing powerhouse. Cities grew, technology advanced, and infrastructure exploded. In recent decades, China has built the world's second-largest economy, pioneered massive infrastructure projects like the Belt and Road Initiative, influencing over 140 countries, taken a lead in AI, 5G, quantum computing, and green energy, challenged U.S. dominance in the Indo-Pacific with an expanding Navy and space program, created global platforms like Huawei, TikTok, and Alibaba, shaping digital culture and commerce. To many, China is no longer just a rising power. It's a contender, a heavyweight now standing toe-to-toe with the Anglo-American alliance. China's growing influence, a global shockwave. As China now stands toe-to-toe with the Anglo-American alliance, its growing influence is sending ripples and shockwaves through the global order. China's expanding economic reach is challenging Western dominance on multiple fronts. Through strategic investments, trade partnerships, and soft power diplomacy, it is reshaping the socio-political landscape of entire regions. African nations, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and even parts of Europe now find themselves drawn into Beijing's gravitational pull. China's vast production capacity has led to a dependence on Chinese goods, hollowing out manufacturing bases in the West and causing political and economic anxiety. Its control over critical rare earth minerals, dominance in supply chains, and strides in electric vehicles, green energy, and digital technology are redefining the rules of engagement. Socially and politically, China's alternative governance model, authoritarian capitalism, is attracting interest from regimes disillusioned with Western-style democracy. Its growing presence in international institutions and assertiveness in narratives challenges the values the Anglo-American bloc has long promoted. Tensions and pushback. The clash escalates. The West feels the tremors, and it's fighting back. Trade wars and tariffs have become weapons of economic defense. Tech bans, like the crackdown on Huawei and TikTok, reflect fears of espionage and ideological influence. Military posturing in the South China Sea, Taiwan Strait, and beyond signals rising confrontation. Information wars are intensifying, with propaganda, cyber espionage, and media control on both sides. The alliance is also moving to reshore industries, fortify alliances like NATO, AUKUS, and the Quad, and slow down China's access to cutting-edge chips and defense tech. But these actions carry risks. The world teeters on the edge of a new Cold War, with potential consequences that could ripple across economies, ignite proxy conflicts, and trigger global instability. The pressure is mounting. The fighters are in the ring. Both are wounded. Both are dangerous. And the world holds its breath. But according to ancient prophecy, neither will win. A divine interruption. The final blow. In the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. And this kingdom will not be passed on to any other people. It will crush and put an end to all these kingdoms, and it alone will stand forever. Daniel 2:44. The crowd holds its breath. The two giants, China and the Anglo-American alliance, continue to trade blows in a battle for global dominance. But suddenly, something unexpected happens. A force outside the arena crashes in. Not another contender, not a political movement, not a rising nation, but a stone, cut not by human hands, comes hurtling toward the stage with unstoppable force. It doesn't just strike one fighter, it destroys them all, including the arena itself. The entire world stage shatters under the impact. This isn't science fiction or poetic metaphor. This is divine prophecy, foretold over 2,500 years ago through the prophet Daniel. While the world is distracted watching the duel between human powers, God declares that his kingdom will end all man-made rulerships and establish an unshakable government that will never be overthrown. This stone represents God's kingdom, a real government under Jesus Christ that does not play by human rules. It is not formed through politics, war, or elections. It doesn't rise from the ruins of past empires. It comes from heaven, and it arrives during the days of these kings, not after one wins. That's crucial. God's kingdom doesn't wait until China overtakes the West, or vice versa. It comes while both are still active, crushing all human kingdoms simultaneously. The fight will be interrupted, not concluded on human terms. One prophecy, two lenses. Daniel, Chapter 2 and Chapter 7. Aligned Daniel. Chapter 2 presents a majestic metallic statue, while Chapter 7 shows a terrifying vision of beasts rising from a stormy sea. Two contrasting perspectives, but pointing to the same sequence of world powers and the same divine conclusion. Let's break it down. More than metals. Beasts show the character. The statue in Daniel 2 shows political succession and structure. But Daniel 7 goes deeper, revealing the aggressive, animalistic nature of these empires. Babylon, the lion with wings, had royal dominance and speed. Medo-Persia, like a lopsided bear, was strong but unbalanced. Persia ultimately dominating the alliance. Greece, the leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads, represents swift expansion and division after Alexander's death. Then the most fearsome, the 4th beast, unlike anything else. It's ruthless, iron-toothed, crushing all resistance. From this beast arises a little horn with human eyes and a boastful mouth. This final manifestation is full of arrogance, waging war against God's holy ones, symbolic of the Anglo-American world power, the last beast-like phase before divine judgment. But the court sits. Here's where the vision shifts from beasts to thrones. But the court sat, and they took away his rulership, and the holy ones took possession of the kingdom. Daniel 7:26 and 27. It's a direct alignment with Daniel 2:44. God's kingdom interrupts the power structure during the reign of this final beast. The ruling powers aren't replaced by a new beast or empire, but by a heavenly court representing God's kingdom under Christ. So whether you view history as a statue or as beasts, the message is consistent. Human rule ends not by human revolution, not by China toppling the West, but by a divine act from above. And this happens while these world powers still exist. God's kingdom strikes them all at once, shattering the entire system and setting up an everlasting government of peace. Can we trust these Bible prophecies? The question isn't just philosophical, it's personal. If the Bible has consistently foretold the rise and fall of empires long before they appeared on the world stage, shouldn't that inspire deep trust in its final declarations? Let's examine the record. Babylon, the head of gold. The prophecy in Daniel chapter 2 began during Babylon's golden era, around 603 BCE, when Daniel interpreted King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. The king was told plainly, "You are the head of gold." Daniel 2:38. Babylon's dominance fit the symbol. With wealth, architecture, and influence towering above the world, it stood unmatched. But the prophecy isn't just about the conquering of Babylonian Empire. Unlike other world powers before and after it, it would become a heap of ruins. Let's now zoom in on exactly when and how Babylon's site started turning into a heap of ruins, just as prophesied in Isaiah 13:19-22 and Jeremiah 51:37. First, when did Babylon start becoming a heap of ruins? Babylon didn't collapse overnight. Its ruin came in stages, gradually and steadily over centuries. How Babylon became a heap of ruins. One neglect after power shift. After Persian conquest, the empire's attention turned to other capitals, like Susa and Persepolis. With no imperial support, Babylon slowly decayed. 2. Loss of water supply. Babylon thrived along the Euphrates River. Over time, the river changed course or silted, cutting off water and hastening ruin. Third, brick robbing and erosion. Locals and later empires looted the city's baked bricks for construction. Exposure to the desert winds and rain eroded what remained. 4. No permanent rebuilding. God said in Isaiah 14:22-23 that he would sweep it with the broom of destruction. Every effort to revive Babylon, including Saddam Hussein's project, failed to bring lasting restoration. 5. Fear and superstition. In later centuries, locals avoided the ruins, associating them with divine judgment and bad omens. Bedouins and nomads refused to pitch tents there, a direct fulfillment of Isaiah 13:20. Bottom line, Babylon physically became a heap of ruins by the 2nd century CE, and the process began immediately after its fall in 539 BCE. No other ancient superpower city, not even Nineveh or Rome, has experienced such precise, long-term, and complete desolation as Babylon, just as Jehovah foretold. But the prophecy didn't stop at Babylon. It predicted that another kingdom would rise after it. Medo-Persia, the chest and arms of silver. Exactly as foretold, Babylon was conquered in 539 BCE by the Medo-Persian Empire, under the leadership of Cyrus the Great, a moment that shook the ancient world. Remarkably, this event had been foretold nearly 200 years earlier by the prophet Isaiah. He even named Cyrus and described his conquest tactics, drying up the riverbeds, gates left open, down to specifics. Isaiah 44:27-45:1. What was Cyrus's response to this prophecy? Historical records and Jewish tradition tell us he was so moved by reading Isaiah's words, written long before his birth, that he acknowledged Jehovah's sovereignty and authorized the return of the Jews to Jerusalem, even funding the rebuilding of their temple, Ezra 1:1-4. What foreign ruler does that, unless compelled by a divine purpose? Greece, the belly and thighs of bronze. The prophecy continued. A third empire would rise, symbolized by bronze. This was fulfilled in 331 BCE when Alexander the Great crushed the Medo-Persian Empire at the Battle of Gaugamela. Over 270 years after Daniel's vision, Greece stepped onto the world stage exactly as predicted. Even more amazing? In Daniel chapter 8, a vision given about 200 years earlier, this Greek conqueror was described as a goat with a prominent horn, charging swiftly across the earth and defeating the ram, Medo-Persia. That prominent horn was interpreted as the first king, clearly pointing to Alexander. Though Alexander was known for destruction, when he approached Jerusalem, something unusual happened. He didn't attack. According to historical accounts, Jewish priests showed him Daniel's prophecy about the Greek king. Alexander, reportedly impressed, treated Jerusalem with honor, offered sacrifices to Jehovah, and granted Jews religious freedom in his empire. Coincidence, or evidence that he too recognized a divine script unfolding? Rome and Anglo-American, legs of iron to feet of iron and clay. History confirms that the Greek Empire fractured into 4 parts after Alexander's death, just as Daniel 8:8 foresaw. Then came Rome, rising to become the 4th world power, strong as iron as Daniel predicted, Daniel 2:40. Rome's dominance paved the way for the eventual emergence of the Anglo-American alliance, represented by the fragile feet of iron mixed with clay, a divided, partly strong, partly weak entity that continues to this day. Each empire, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and the Anglo-American world power, rose and ruled precisely as the prophecy outlined. Not vaguely, not symbolically, but in measurable historical terms, hundreds of years in advance. So, can we trust what comes next? If prophecy after prophecy has proven true down to names, years, battle strategies, and ruler attitudes, what about the next part of Daniel's vision? Daniel 2:44 says that, "In the days of those kings, God's kingdom, a power not of human origin, will crush and put an end to all these kingdoms, not when they're gone, while they're still standing." Can we really afford to doubt this last part, when the entire prophetic sequence has been unfailing? And let's ask the deeper question. How did Isaiah describe Cyrus 2 centuries ahead of time? How did Daniel detail Alexander's rise, fall, and empire breakup long before Greece even existed as a world power? These weren't educated guesses. These were revelations from a mind beyond time itself. Isn't this the hallmark of divine authorship? As Psalm 119:105 says, "Your word is a lamp to my foot and a light for my path," not only for the past, but for what's coming next. The final act, no 8th world power. The prophetic timeline doesn't leave room for speculation. After the iron legs, Rome, and the feet of iron mixed with clay, Anglo-American world power, no other human empire is foretold to rise. Not China, not Russia, not any coalition or global union. The stage is set. We are living in the era of the final symbolic toes of that great image seen by Nebuchadnezzar. The last world power is already in place. And according to Daniel 2:44, in the days of those kings, God himself will intervene. There will be no transfer of global supremacy, no final showdown between titans. Instead, a divine intervention, swift, unstoppable, and final. The kingdoms of this world will be crushed, not by nuclear arms or economic collapse, but by God's kingdom, a government not made by human hands. Daniel 2:34-35. This is the end Jesus spoke about, not the end of the earth, but the end of satanic and corrupt human rulership, injustice, and rebellion against God. A new era will dawn, not under man's rule, but under God's perfect government. Where do you stand? This isn't just history. It's a countdown. The precision of the past gives certainty to the future. So now we must ask, if the rise of Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome all came true as foretold, if Alexander the Great and Cyrus the Great were moved by God's words centuries before their time, if the Anglo-American power is the final foretold world empire, then what does that mean for us, now, living in the closing moments of this prophetic timeline? Will you be aligned with the crumbling image, or with the indestructible kingdom that is about to replace it? The Bible says, "Happy is the man who puts his trust in Jehovah." Proverbs 16:20. The world is passing away, but the one who does the will of God remains forever. 1 John 2:17. Unlocking the future. Now this isn't fear, it's forewarning with hope. The prophecies of Daniel and Revelation are not just relics of ancient religion, they are God's roadmap for mankind. They were written not to mystify but to guide, like a lighthouse through a storm. So, if you're searching for truth, if the shifting sands of world politics are unsettling you, if you've ever wondered what's next, you're not alone, and you're not without answers. Start by reading the Bible for yourself. Visit www.jw.org to find the tools, explanations, and clarity you need to make sense of what's happening now and what's coming next. Because the kingdoms of this world are ending, and a new one, God's kingdom, is rising. Will you be ready?